Okay, this is to help those of you who are still struggling with figuring out how to plot the different conflicts that you might find in Ender's Game. So the first most obvious conflict is man versus man. If you are going to plot the graph for man versus man, the main characters that fight against Ender, or his main struggle throughout the book, may be Ender versus his bullies, or you could go even further out and say Ender versus the buggers. Either one of those would work for man versus man. And in order to fill out the plot graph correctly, you have to think about the conflict that you choose. So you have to choose one before you fill out the plot graph. I'm going to use Ender versus the bullies. So the first problem that Ender faces in the exposition part of the novel is when he is bullied by Stilson. And he, according to the novel, he knocks him down and he doesn't realize that he has killed Stilson. But at that point, we don't know that either. We just know that he was knocked out. The second person that bullies him is his brother Peter. And we learn after he is dismissed from his school after beating up Stilson that Peter has been bullying him his whole life and threatens actually to kill him. So that's a rising action point. Then when he goes off to battle school, on the way up there, Graf sets him up to be bullied again by, I believe his name is Bernard. Bernard tries to bully him, but Ender breaks his arm instead. Okay, and then when he gets to the battle station, he runs into Bonzo. And Bonzo is the main bully at the battle station. And the climax of Ender versus the bullies is probably when Ender kills Bonzo. And after that point, people don't bully him anymore as far as, kids his age. The adults are still manipulating him, but no one physically bullies him. So what happens to him after Bonzo? He kills Bonzo. He returns to Earth and quits. And quits battle school. So what's the resolution to the bullying? Well, he pretty much ends it with the fight. I mean, no other students bully him again. Okay, so that would be filling out the plot graph for Ender versus bullies and man versus man. So how is it different when you need to fill out this plot graph with man versus, let's do man versus himself. Ender v. himself. Okay, so the difference is the exposition is different, because the conflict is, what is it that he doesn't want to do? How is he fighting with himself? He doesn't want to be like Peter. Well, in the exposition part, this is still valid, bullied by Stillson, because what does he do? He fights back. And we learn later that he kills him. Kills Stillson. And that is the beginning of him turning into Peter. He's bullied by Peter, and Peter threatens to kill him, right? So that's the reason he doesn't want to be who he is, or who Peter is. And Bernard tried to bully him, yes, and then he broke his arm. So this is the reason that this point is valid for doesn't want to be like Peter, because that's what Peter would have done. And then Boneso being the bully towards Ender. Ender tries not to kill him. Ender doesn't want to kill him. To hurt Boneso. But when he corners him in the shower, that's exactly what he does. He returns to Earth and quits battle school because he realizes he's turned into Peter. And then he kills all the boogers, or all the buggers. Kills the buggers. But in doing so, he also kills many humans. So he becomes exactly what he wanted to avoid. Now the resolution then is not that the bully stopped bugging him. The resolution for this conflict is Ender doesn't want to be like Peter. Ender chooses a more peaceful way. He tries to save people and the last bugger. Okay, so this is how you fill out the plot graph, and this is how the plot graph changes when you change conflict. So the conflict matters most when you're trying to fill out the plot graph, and it also tells you what your theme might be. So if Ender versus the bullies is your conflict, then your theme would be something like don't let the bullies win. Let's say that. That's a lesson you can learn from the bullies, Ender versus bullies. A lesson you can learn from Ender versus himself is maybe be careful what you do, or you might become what you hate. Okay? There you go.